So, we started with Devil's Bride, book 1. Then we did A Rake's Vow. Then we did Scandal's Bride, The Lady of the Veil. Then we did a prequel because you had to have read this one to read this one, because this one spoils this one. So we wanted to get past this one to get to the parents. And today, excuse me, itch, we are going to read book 5, or 4 actually. Next week we'll do 5, 6, Chillingsworth. I have no idea. He's a family friend. He's prominent in all the books. And then we'll finish with the twins before moving on to the Bastion Club. And I didn't want to waste time today. I wanted to be able to read more of the book. I talked so much last week, I didn't get to enjoy too much of the book with you. So I wanted to enjoy the book with you. So, 1820. Arter-fed freedom, he escaped with an arrogant smile. Harry Henry Cynster, demon to his associates, even to his mother in her weaker moments, drew his curricle to a flourishing halt in the yard behind his Newgate stable, tossing the reins to his groom Giles, who leaped from the back of the elegant espiage to catch them. Demon stepped down to the cobbles in a buoyant mood. He ran a loving hand over the glossy bay hide of his leader and scanned the yard with a praetorial eye. There was not a shaming mamma or disapproving gimlet-eyed dowager in sight. First his cousin Devil, then his own brother Vane, and now his closest cousin Richard, who next of their select band of 6, the Bar Cynster as they were called, would fate cause to trip into the arms of a loving wife. Whoever it was, it wouldn't be him. Pausing before the open doors of the stable, he swung around, eyes squinting in the slanting sunlight. Some of his horses were ambling in the paddocks, with their lads close in attendance. On the heath beyond, other stable strings were exercising under the eyes of owners and trainers. The scene was exclusively male one. The fact that he felt entirely at home, indeed could feel himself relaxing, was ironic. He could hardly claim he didn't like women, didn't enjoy their company, didn't devote considerable time to their conquest. He couldn't deny he took pleasure in and derived considerable satisfaction from those conquests. He was a Cynster after all. Did you want to come up here? You gonna come up? Are you coming up? You're just sitting there staring at me. She's staring at me. A painful fate indeed for a warrior to breed to forever at the mercy of a woman who held one's heart, soul, and future in her hand, delicate hands. It was enough to make the strongest warrior blanch. He was having none of it. Demon frowned and wiggled his shoulders. Reaching the point where the alley widened into the mounting area, he stopped and looked up. A familiar sight met his eyes, a lad or work rider swinging a leg over the sleek back of one of his champions. The horse was facing away. What? Come here. You just put your fingernails in my leg. Now I lost my spot. So where were we? So he sees this rider and he runs after them and they go on a chase. And let's see where to go. He was chasing he thought it was a lad, and he was doing a chase through the trees and stuff like that, and the lad was really good at the uh running the horses. And Demon gets upset that the rider was really, really good and better than him. Her. There was no doubt of that now. Lads did not have delicate shoulders and collarbones, swan-like necks, and hands like that. Even encased in leather glove, looked small and fine-boned. As for her face, the little he glimpsed above the woolen muffler wound around her nose and chin had been more Madonna-like than man-like. A female called Flick. In the distant recesses of his brain, a memory stirred, too insubstantial to catch and hold. He tried to coax it further from the light, and failed. He was sure he never called any female Flick. He might not be able to ride her down, but he damned if he'd lose her. And he chases her, do the things. And then he chases her down. He was sinking fast. He found himself drowning in limpid. All right, let me back up here. Damon's memories churned as he walked his horse into the cop's shadow. She called him Damon. Only someone who knew him would do that. Images from the past jumbled and tumbled, glimpses through the years of a girl, a child, who would, without a blush, call him Demon. Of a girl who could ride. Oh, yes, she'd always ridden. But when had she become a maestro? Of a girl he had long ago pegged as having the quality Carruthers described as good bottom. The open-hearted courage that bordered on the reckless, but wasn't. When he stopped his horse nose to nose with the Flynn, he had well and truly placed, not Flick, Felicity. Eyes like slits, he held her trap. Reaching out, he tugged the concealing muffle from her face, and found himself looking down at Botticelli Angel. He was sinking fast, and he wasn't resisting. Sucking in a breath, he drew back inwardly, shocked at how far he'd gone. Shaking free of the lingering spell, he scowled at its source. What the damn hell do you think you're about? I'm masquerading as a stable lad in your stable, so what a damn fool, Locke, what the devil? It's not a Locke. Her blue eyes flashed, her expression turned belligerent. I'm doing it for the general. The general? General Sir Gordon Gaxton was Demon's neighbor and mentor, and Felicity Flick's guardian. You're not going to tell me the general knows about this? Of course not. The Flynn shifted tight-lipped. Demon waited while Flick quieted the bay. It's all because of Dillion. Dillion was the general's son. Flick and Dillion were similar age. Demon's most recent memories of Dillion were of a dark-haired youth swaggering about the general's house, Hillgate End, giving himself airs and undeserved graces. Dillion's in trouble. Again. He became involved inadvertently with a racing racket. A what? The words racing fix sent a chill down his spine. That's when jockeys are paid to ease back on a horse or cause a disruption or... I know what it's called! That doesn't explain what you're doing mixed up in it. I'm not! If you'd stop interrupting, I'll tell you! Demon reined in his temper, set his jaw, and pointedly waited. After a moment's fraught silence, blue eyes locked with blue. Flick nodded and put her pert nose in the air. Dillion was approached some weeks ago by a man and asked to take a message to a jockey about the first race of the season. He didn't see any reason he shouldn't, so he agreed. I suspect he thought it would be a lark or that it made him more involved with the racing. But he agreed to carry the message to the jockey, then didn't. Couldn't. Got a chill at Mrs. Fogarty and I insisted he stay in bed. We took away his clothes, so he had to. Of course, he didn't say why he kept trying to struggle up. Not then. So the message didn't get on. It was an instruction to fix the race. So the race, therefore, wasn't fixed. It now seems the man who approached Dillion was working for some sort of syndicate, a group of some description, and because the race wasn't fixed, they didn't know it. They lost a lot of money. Men came looking for Dillion, rough men. Luckily, Jacobs and Mrs. Fogarty didn't like their style. They said Dillion was away. So now he's in hiding and fears for his life. Damon exhaled and sat back in his saddle. From what he knew of unsavory types involved in horse racing, Dillion had good cause to worry. He studied Flick. Where is he hiding? I can't tell you, not unless you're willing to help us. Damon returned her gaze with one even more severe and distinctly more aggravated. Of course I'm going to help. What did you think he was? Beneath his breath he swore. How's the general going to take it if his only son is charged with race fixing? Precisely. And that, I'm afraid, is one of the things we especially fear. Because the man who hired Dillion definitely knew he was the Gerald's son. So where's Dillion hiding? It's in the tumble-down cottage on the far corner of your land. My land? She blushed but didn't reply. My horses, my cottage. What else have you been making free with? She blushed slightly but didn't reply. Damon couldn't help but notice how fine her skin was. Unblemished ivory silk now tinged a delicate rose. She was a painter's dream. She would have had Botticelli's slavery. The idea brought to mind the painter's dilettantely clad angels in a blink of his mind's eye. He had Flick similarly clothed, and the tantalizing question of how the ivory skin felt caused him to blush. I'm hoping to identify the man who contacted Dillion. Dillion only met him at night. He never saw him well enough to recognize or describe. Now Dillion's not available to act as his messenger. The man will have to contact someone else, someone who can easily speak to the race jockeys. So you're hanging around my stables morning and afternoon hoping this man approaches you? Aghast, he stared at her. Not me. One of the others, the older lads who know all the race jockeys. I'm there to keep watch and overhear anything I can. How the hell did you persuade Carruthers to hire you? Or doesn't he know? Of course he doesn't know. No one does. But it wasn't difficult to get hired. I heard Ickley had disappeared. Dillion was told Ickley had agreed to act as a messenger for this season, but changed his mind at the last. That's why they approached Dillion. So I knew Carruthers was short-handed. So I dressed appropriately, gesturing at the clothes she was wearing. All I had to do was ride for him, and he'd take me on. What about the other lads, the jockeys? They're all not half blind. Have you ever stood in a working stable and watched how the men, lads, or trainers look at each other? The horses, yes, but they never do more than glance at the humans working alongside. The others see me all the time, but they never actually look at me. You're the only one who actually looked at me. The horses were cooling, the sun slowly sinking, his mount shifted, coat flickering. Damon drew breath. Let's get back, then I'll go and see Dillion. I'll come too. Well, I have to. That's where I change clothes and switch horses. Horses? I couldn't turn up riding Jessame. They'd certainly notice. Jessame, Demon recalled, was a dainty mare with exceptional bloodlines. The general had bought her last year, apparently for Flick. So I borrow the old cob you let run on your back paddock. I don't ride him above a canter, if that. I'm very careful of him. Anything else you borrowed? I don't think so. All right, we'll ride these two back. Then you climb on the cob and head off. I'll leave in my curricle. I'll drive home, then ride out and join you. I'll meet you by the split oak on the rock to Lydgate. Very well. But we'll have to hurry now. Come on. So they meet up later. And he goes, What did you tell Carruthers? Flick asked with a sidelong glance. When they returned to the stable, Flick had been in the lead. Carruthers had been stabling, hands on hips, in the stable door. From behind Flick, Demon had signaled him away. Carruthers had stared, but as Flick had trotted the Flynn up, he stood aside and let her pass without question. By the time Carruthers and the night watchman, a retired jockey, and the other ones left in the stable, handing his mount to the night watchman to unsaddle, Demon had set about modifying Carruthers. I told him I knew you as a brat from near Lydgate and that you feared that recognizing you I'd terminate your employment immediately. However, seeing you ride and being convinced of your fervent wish to work with my horses, I agreed to let you stay on. Aww, isn't that sweet? Um, He's obviously in need of exercise, referring to the horse. I'll give him a run later. I'm surprised you let him get in such a bad temper. He's been here, I've been in London, and no one can ride him but me. Oh, she says. He still had no idea how old she was. He instinctively, covertly confirming details instinctively noted. She had always been petite, although he hadn't seen her in recent years. In her present incarnation, he'd seen her atop a horse. He doubted her head would clear his shoulders. Her figure remained a mystery except for her definitely feminine bottom, a classic inverted heart, sleek round shape. Dismounting, Damon double-tied Ivan's reins to a large tree. "Behave yourself," he ordered the horse. Saw Flick standing beside Dillion Caxton, who was sitting at the end of an old table, blankets wrapped around his shoulders. She was bent over him as Demon entered. She straightened, frowning, her hand on Dillon's brow. "You don't have any sign of fever." Dillion didn't respond, his eyes large and dark, framed by long black lashes, fixed on Demon. Then he coughed. "Ah, hello. Come in. I'm afraid it's rather cold in here. We daren't light a fire." Color flooded Dillon's cheeks. "Ah, yes, Flick said you agreed to help." With one long finger he combed back his thick lock of dark hair that fell in perfect bionic imitation across his brow. "I can't tell you how much I appreciate that." "Flick didn't say how much she's told you. Enough for me to understand what's going on." Resting his arms on the table, Demon looked at Dillion and didn't like what he saw. The fact that Flick was hovering protectively at Dillon's shoulder contributed to his assessment only marginally. Much more telling was his memories, observations over the years, and the facts the current embryogo, not as Flick had innocently described them, but as he knew they must be. "I'd like to hear your observations direct. Let's start with the message with this character who asked you to carry a message." "What do you want to know?" "Then the how, the when, the where, the words." "Well, the when was nearly 3 weeks ago, just before the race of the year." "Just before?" "2 days before." "2 days? That seems awfully short notice to arrange a fix, don't you think? The general consensus in these syndicates lay their plans well in advance. It's something of imperative given the number of bookmakers and supporting characters necessarily involved." "Oh," Dillion says. "Actually, the man did say they had another messenger, Ickley. He used to work at your stables, lined up to do the job, but he changed his mind, so they needed someone else." "So they came to you. Why?" The single word startled Dillion. Then he shrugged. "I don't know. I suppose they were looking for someone who knew their way about, knew the jockeys, and knew the places to rub the right shoulders." "Why did you imagine this man didn't just ask you to point out the particular jockey and speak to him himself?" "I don't know." "Surely you wondered why it was necessary for the man to have a messenger at all. If the message were innocent, why did the man need to hire you or someone to deliver them?" "Ah, but the messages weren't innocent, you see." "Oh, I see. But you didn't know that before they hired you, did you?" "Well, no." "So why didn't you simply tell this man where he could find the jockey? Why be his go-between?" "Well, because I thought he might not want to be seen." "Well, no." "No, indeed. How much did they pay you?" "I don't know what you mean." "Really? Really? You're gonna pull that line? I'm gonna give you that hard, firm, male, upper, older brother stare kind of situation." Um, how much did they pay you?" Dillion flushed. "You took money?" Flick says. "I didn't know you took money." "You took money to carry a message to fix the race. It was only 2 ponies. Just for the one message. I wasn't going to do it anymore. That's why they got icky." "Any more?" Flick said. "What do you mean, any more?" "Dillion, how long? How long have you been taking money to carry messages for these men?" "Since last summer." "Last summer?" Flick says. "Good God, why? What on earth possessed you?" "It was the money, of course. The general gives you a generous allowance. Why would you want more? And if you needed more, you know you only had to ask. I always have plenty. You've been gambling at the cockfights, haven't you?" Scorn, raw disgust poured it through her words. "Your father forbade it, but you couldn't leave it be. And now Flick is really angry and she's in his face and she's all upset." Don't look at me, Demon said. Not my style at all. It's disgusting, Flick says, and I agree with her. I don't want any animals fighting each other, and I don't want anybody killing any animals either. You're disgusting, Flick says. She's all upset that she's been working all hard to defend Dillion. And now she's with this realization that he wasn't just a one-time thing. It's been a while. It's been almost a year. Silence descended in the main room. Dillion let it stretch. He watched Dillion squirm. Demon let it stretch. He watched Dillion squirm, then stiffened his spine, only to wilt again. I rather think you better tell us the whole of it, Demon says. I ran messages the whole autumn season. I owed a cent per cent in Bury St. Edmunds. He said I could pay up before year's end or come and see the general. I had to get the money somewhere. Then the man, the one who brings the message, found me. I always thought it was the cent per cent who nudged him my way to ensure I'd be in a position to pay. Anyway, it was easy enough, easy money, I thought. And Dillion is just giving him the old hard look. Well, it was easy last year. Then the man brought the messages for the last weeks of the race. I told him I wouldn't do it anymore. He said, we'll see. And I left it at that. I didn't expect to see him again, but 2 nights before the last race this year, he found me at a cockfight. I don't like those. I don't like those at all. So they get more information on this situation he's in, and they agree to help him, and they start to come up with a plan. And then Dillion and Flick head back, and they talk about what's going to happen. And Dillion realizes that he is falling, that he's got a female with him, that he's probably in trouble romantically, but he hasn't really gotten to that realization yet. Um, and the fact that he's not telling Carruthers right away, but Carruthers will figure it out. So how they help Dillion and how they fall in love, you'll have to read the book. These are so good. I love these to death. And Dillion thought he was Demon thought he was escaping the marriage mart, and he went home and found the marriage mart at home. Plus he found some trouble, and he will enlist his siblings, the cousins, to help him at some point. And everybody else will find out about it, and they'll all get involved in it. So I hope you will hit the like and subscribe, and I hope you will tune in next week. Where we go to A Secret Love. Have a good one.